Hello and welcome to my guide. I will be going over building a user interface library for your React application and kind of going through how to set up your build process, how to set up some of the structure here. Hopefully it'll be just one of many videos, but this one should be like a really good starter, primer / reference for whenever you want to start this process. So the idea here is that just about any React application that you're going to have is going to have some kind of like a UI components layer, meaning something that's going to render out the buttons for you, something that's going to render out tables, something that's going to render out modals, anything like that. And a lot of the times, even if you use a third-party library to handle some of this stuff for you, like I think MUI is one of them, ShatsCN is another. There are quite a few different UI libraries out there for React, especially, that can handle some of this stuff for you. You'll most likely end up finding yourself in situations where you want to like wrap a button and give it some default settings and have like a button from your code base that you prefer using to just a plain third-party button, right? And there are different ways of doing this kind of thing. You can structure it as being part of your existing React application, which I think is like the best way to get started, really. Another option that you have is if you have a monorepo, having a project for the UI library there. And the last option would be that, let's say you have a completely separate repo because you have to support a lot of different projects that aren't in a monorepo or might be in a monorepo, and you want to publish it to NPM. So we're going to focus on that last part. Building the UI library within your React application will not need any of the stuff I'm going to be going through. Building that UI app within your monorepo, you might actually follow a lot of these steps to begin with. So one thing we're going to do first is we're going to start with setting up our Vite project. So I have the Vite documentation over here. Vite is a compiler bundler thing. It's a next generation front-end tooling. I say compiler bundler thing because technically it is not a compiler, but it has support for like TypeScript, JSX, CSS. It's like an all-in-one tool. Let's just call it that, so that we don't have to kind of find the right place. So, see, it's not even a bundler. It uses rollup. Well, technically, like Vite does the bundling using rollup. Yeah, it's complicated, but we're going to be using this. Vite has become a little bit of the standard when it comes to building front-end applications from scratch, and has replaced Webpack and similar tools just about everywhere that I've worked. And I have used Vite at like a dozen different applications, or I've migrated about a dozen different applications to Vite to make this work, from Webpack, and I've worked with this quite a bit, and I really like it. And so Vite is mostly for front-end applications, but it does have the ability to build UI libraries and libraries. So we're going to go ahead and follow the instructions here. I have instructions written down for myself so I don't forget what I'm doing, but I'm going to use the documentation so that it's a little bit easier. So we're going to go ahead get started with it. Normally you'll have to like install Vite and whatever globally to make this work, but just run this command and it'll prompt you to do that by default. Now, I created this sample repo called Cottage UI. We're going to call our project for this video House UI because I'm not very imaginative, but it's going to be the same exact thing. I just wanted to have like a reference for us to look at if we need to. We're going to go ahead and select React. So I'm building this for React. As you can see, there's support for a lot of different frameworks. We're going to do TypeScript. I will advise you to use TypeScript even if you don't need it. Not necessarily saying that you have to write TypeScript, but set up the TypeScript compiler. It's better and easier to just have it set up from the beginning. Let's go ahead and go to House UI. We're going to do npm install. So this should be basically like the most basic setup you have for Vite. npm install, waiting for that. It's really funny. I have all these dependencies locally, so I'm sure that if I use pnpm or yarn, it'd be faster. And let's go ahead and go into our house. Oh, already in house UI. So let's go ahead and do npm run dev. Now I use tmux, so you're going to see there are these two tabs down here. We're going to go ahead and go into this tab. It's kind of like a separate terminal, and we're going to do run dev from here, so we can always have it running in the background while we work on things. Now I had this from a previous video here, but if we refresh, cool, we have a React application working. Cool. So what else do we need to do? Well, we actually need to set it up in library mode. So we're going to go here. There is a section called Building for Production. Again, Vite.js documentation. There's a lot of things you can do for customizing your build. We don't really care about any of this right now, except for library mode. Now, library mode made this entire video doable, to be honest, because otherwise it's such a pain doing this on your own, and such a pain. And there are a lot of options that you have to like fill out here, but in comparison to how things used to be, let's say 4 years ago, this is a treat for me. So we're going to go into our Vite config. So just kind of to show you the structure of the project, we have this index.html that has to do with the Vite application running here. We have README, obviously we have package.json, a lot of these configuration files, and the main source code for this application is in source. But we will not be using this folder for our library. We're in fact going to create a new folder. We're going to call it lib for library. Let's go ahead and change our Vite config TS so that it matches correctly. So here on the left side, Vite.js does a great job of showing us how to do this in Vue. We're using React, so we're going to change a few things. I'm going to keep that plugin here because I still want that for our preview application. We're going to set up this build step over here. Again, it seems like a lot of stuff that you have to set up, but it's a lot less than it used to be. So let's go ahead and fill this out. We're going to do lib. We're going to do we're going to do lib main.tsx because it's going to, main.ts. We're going to go ahead and name this. We're calling it house UI. And we can actually do the file name. That's going to be house UI as well. So we don't have to do anything too wild over here. And this is actually a little bit of a departure from the cottage UI repo here, but we're going to be like force pushing over it, so that's fine. Then we have to set up some rollup options. Rollup is the bundler that Vite uses under the hood. So this feels like it's a little bit too, I'm peeking too under the hood here. So here we have the library entry and output settings, and then we have bundler options, externalize React related libraries, or what's it called? Imports. There we go. That's what I wanted to do. Let's go ahead and save this. There we go. Had to get rid of a lot of these errors here. Now, we're obviously not going to say Vue, but we are going to externalize React, React DOM, and actually JSX, React.jsx runtime. Next, we have to set them up as globals. So basically, when this library gets imported, this is where it will look for those imports. Like we are going to be building React components. For those React components to work correctly, they do need React, so this is where our application is going to look for it. So we have React, we have React DOM, and we're going to be verifying that all of this works at the end as well. So we have JSX, React./JSX runtime, and we're actually going to just look for that in the same place. Cool. Now let's go ahead and build our first little component here. So we're going to create that main.ts, and we're going to create a button.tsx component over here. Now, as far as the structure for the UI library, there are a lot of different ways that people want to structure the libraries. Some people want to export every single, or treat each component as its own entry and export it. Some people want to have like one entry where they import everything from. There's like the argument for tree shaking against tree shaking. Doesn't really matter in this situation. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of decisions you can make. I forgot to add this path resolver here. So for our purposes, we're going to just do main, and actually we're going to do this. We're going to export our button directly from main.ts. So main.ts works almost like a pass-through. It's kind of currently giving us an error because we don't have this set up. So we're going to do this. Again, more arguments and things to discuss, default imports versus named imports, button versus index.tsx, all kinds of decisions to be made here. And I'll probably go over some of these things later on in different videos. So we're going to create a simple button, right? So our simple button is just going to be a regular HTML5 button, and it's going to just put the children inside. We're going to import React. I think this has actually to do with a TSConfig thing, so that TypeScript knows that React is global and doesn't have to worry about it. All right, but we have this ready, main.ts. Fantastic. So all of this is kind of put together. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to update package.json. Before we test this out, we want to make sure that everything here is set up correctly. This is another part of the documentation over here. We basically need to kind of like add all of this here, all of these options. So we want to let Vite and whoever else know where the dist files are at. Our main file is going to be dist houseui.umd.cjs. Fantastic. We're going to have a module file. The module file is going to be dist houseui.js. Cool. Now we have to export these. This is so that whatever bundler compiler is importing our library knows how to import it. So if you use import, this is the path for imports. At least that is my understanding how this works. This is also used to be like a huge pain. Like I never know how to set this up, which is why I'm making this video, or one of the reasons. Houseui umd.cjs, so that we have maximum compatibility with everything that we need. And that should be it. Whenever you see this stuff, it just means that I pressed escape too fast, or thought I pressed escape and I'm still in Vim. Cool. Let's go ahead and see if we can build this. So we should be able to just run npm run build. Actually, before we do that, we need one more thing. We do have a build step here. We want to do a pre-build. And what this will do is just delete the dist folder. It used to be a really good idea to install the rimraf package, which was able to do this command across multiple different kinds of systems. So you don't have to worry about if RMRF works the same way everywhere. Like if you're on Linux, Unix, Windows, whatever else. But we're just going to keep it at this for now. So let's go ahead and do npm run build. Oh, it built, and look at how tiny it is, 0.14 kilobytes. That sounds about right. So let's look at houseui.js. It looks exactly as you would expect. It is compiled React. It looks for the runtime, and it exports it correctly. For UMD, same thing, just a little bit more complicated. We're not going to go through like how this works, but it does. So that's like the main thing. Cool. So we currently have the entire library building. We have all of the external dependencies externalized correctly. We have just about everything ready. So we should probably like test it out and see if it works inside of our application. So I'm going to go to app.tsx. That's this application. So we're going to use this test application literally just kind of like as a scratch pad. In a separate video, we're going to be installing Storybook, which will actually allow us to not have this part of the application. So we have all of this is correct. We actually don't need the random CSS. Let's clean this up a little bit. Don't need the CSS. Don't care about the assets. I see that you're broken. I will fix you. There we go. Cool. Don't need any of this. Don't need this. Cool. And we should just have a blank application. Test are you working? Fantastic. So now next we can import our button. So we'll do this. Oh no, I have to. This is I don't know if I like this. I don't like how like deep I have to go here. That's very deep. I don't like relative paths. So we're gonna have to fix that next. Let's change this button into a test button. Cool, so that actually worked. But because this is a test application, we actually want to import it the same way we'll be importing it in the main application, so that we can just make sure that I want to say the ergonomics of the imports work the same way, and we don't have to worry about these relative paths here. So ideally, what we want to do is do this, right? Like that is our dream here. So to do that, we're going to do a couple things. First of all, we have TSConfig. All kinds of cool stuff set up over here. And we want to update these configs with TypeScript aliases. So let's go do that. I'm going to look at our application over here, the cottage UI that I made prior to this video, just to kind of see how I did it here. Yeah, fantastic. That's what I thought it was. So we're going to add a paths key. What this does is kind of like an alias. So whenever TypeScript and we're going to get to the Vite part as well, but whenever TypeScript sees house UI, it'll know immediately that it actually needs to import this file. So, are you going to be complaining about it? Still complaining? Let's go ahead and just start this over. Cool. Still complaining. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and handle that. So, we added the paths to TSConfig, but the problem is that, yeah, NPM, Vite has no idea what we're talking about. Vite has its own like path aliasing system. Oh, this is why it's not working. I messed up the import here. All right. Yeah, there we go. Now it's not complaining anymore. But I believe that if we just run Vite, it should still complain. Let's see. Yeah, it's still complaining about it. So it'll compile when it's running, but when you actually run that application, it'll complain about it. That's because the paths that we use in TSConfig, Vite has no idea about these. And like I said, Vite has its own alias syntax. I think it's like this or something like that. We're not going to bother with this because the worst thing what we want to avoid here is a situation where we have an alias in TSConfig and not in Vite. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that they're synced together. For that, we're going to use this neat little package called Vite TSConfig paths. I've used this for quite a bit, and it is a lifesaver because it makes everything so much simpler. So let's go ahead and import it, or not import it, let's go ahead and install it. NPM install Vite TSConfig paths. It's like a Vite plugin basically. And what this plugin will do for us, we're going to go to the Vite config, and we're going to add. We can even look at the directions here. Ooh, TSConfig paths. All right, TSConfig paths. Ooh, auto import. And what this will do is augment the Vite config with the TS configuration paths, so we don't have to do it. It'll be done automatically. So we had the server restart. We're going to do a fresh restart just in case. And yeah, that's it. It works. So again, we have this kind of import. This is the kind of import that maybe you should be seeing in your production application. And we have the correct output here. We could even test here how well the oh, cool. So now this is correctly done. Cool. We can even test here how well this works, the hot module reload and stuff. So we can do why don't we be a little bit silly here? Ooh, that worked perfectly. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and add some typing here so that we can check out if TypeScript works correctly. So we're going to do this. We're going to do React Node or type React Node from React. Huh? Oh, yeah, there's not supposed to be an equal sign here because I'm used to types. Cool. It's never used. I am aware of that. Public props. And we're actually going to return a React node as well. So I think we're actually good here. Cool. Nice. So we have typing working. What happens if we actually don't provide... Well, this was supposed to be a reveal, but what happens if you don't provide the accurate props? It'll actually let you know inside of your IDE as any normal TypeScript application would do. So that's basically it. So one thing we can do here now is test out the publishing. So we're going to do a few things here and how it works in a different application. We're going to actually rename this to Cottage UI. We're going to do some weird stuff here real quick. So we're going to do house cottage. Let's go ahead and do that. In Vite config house cottage. Nice. So we have it. I believe that should be it. And oh yeah, we also got to change this to cottage. Let's go ahead and refresh this page, make sure that it all works correctly still. It does not. What did I miss here? Did I miss the TSConfig paths? Yeah, I did. I'm changing to cottage because I already have an NPM package out, and I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. So we have the paths fixed. Cool. And now it works. Let's make sure that we can still build it. npm run build. Nice. It still builds correctly. And then we're going to go ahead and publish it. Oh, we have the Vite SVG here by accident, so let me just delete that. Where did it come from? Is it still being imported somewhere? I don't think it is. Okay, cool. So looks like we got everything, all of that ready. We're going to add a couple of things here. So we want to do, we're going to do like a pre-publish. We're going to do, and so we can run npm run publish. Publish. And what we want to do is actually build it and then publish it. So we're going to publish through a command instead of trying to publish directly. And I think you can just do pre-publish and it'll work too. But if we want to make it more complicated or anything else like that, let's just keep it in here. Cool. npm run publish. So we're going to build it, make sure it works. Oh, we still have the private field. Good. Good to know. So this over here is added automatically. It's super important. It prevents you from accidentally publishing stuff that you don't want to publish. Go ahead. We did that. We removed it. So now it should be publishable. I'm just going to double check here because I am a little bit nervous. If we look at our package, yep, I have a 0.01 version that I had for testing. And we can go ahead and do an npm run publish. Did that. Is it going to ask me? Yeah, I got to log in. I wonder if this is something that I shouldn't be showing. Hold on a second. Going to just log in on a different monitor with my one-time password. Ooh, yeah, authentication successful. Cool. It's running it again. Why is it running it again? Maybe I'm doing a little bit too much here. Oh, I see what I did here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and just take this little optimization back because I think it's actually running itself over and over. So let's actually do npm publish and let's see what happens now. There is a 0.02 version. And it will not run pre-publish. Okay, so you can look into the publishing aspect of this a little bit more later, but we have installed 0.02. Now, just to make sure that this actually all runs and imports correctly, and I'm starting to get a little bit worried here because I messed up this command and I wanted this to be like a flawless video, we're going to go ahead and create a Remix application real quick so that we can install our library and test it out. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and get out of our house UI thing. We're going to do npm create remix latest, testing app for house UI, template, sure, make it a, yep, install the dependencies. Hopefully it's not too long. And actually, while it's installing, we can go ahead and already go into, what did I call it? Testing app, city testing app, yep. And I'm gonna go into the app here. We have the index route. That's fine. We still have not, it's still installing stuff. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's installed. Let's go ahead and go into the application. We wanna run it real quick. So I think it's npm run start or npm start. No such file directory. What is it having issues with? Hold on. Is it npm run dev? Yeah, it is npm run dev. Is that it? Yeah, that's npm run dev. My bad. Use so many of these libraries that they all just kind of blend in together, and I'm accessing the wrong port. There we go. So that's the Remix application. Now we want to import our button because it's so cool. So we're going to do this. We're going to do Cottage UI. We do need to install Cottage UI, so we're going to do npm install Cottage UI add latest. Remember 0.02 Cottage UI is that house UI project we just worked on. We have it installed. npm run dev. We imported our button. Yeah, nice. It's running. let's go ahead and just delete all of this. And button, do I work? Moment of truth, and it works. So we just went through, just kind of to summarize it, we went through setting up our Vite application for our house UI library right over here. We set up our TSConfig to work with it correctly. We set up our publishing workflow. We set up our first component with TypeScript, and we were able to successfully publish it over here. Very cool. We've got to change the README because it doesn't make sense. And then we are able to real-time test it out and ensure that it actually works in Remix. And just to make sure that we are doing this correctly, I should have changed the color of it or something. But it is our button. That's where it came from. So that's it for our video. In future videos, there are other topics that I obviously want to handle. Kind of have this neat little list here for setting up a UI library. Want to build a more comprehensive first component. We want to set up testing, Tailwind, Storybook, linting, end-to-end building components, and exporting types. As you may have noticed, we actually don't have types exported yet. That is a very important part of this UI library process. And right now, we don't actually have that. So I think that if we try to run this without a child, yeah, it'll still render incorrectly, and it actually gives us an error here that it cannot find a declaration file for it. So that is going to be part of the next video. I hope you were able to learn something. Post below if you have any questions or if you have any notes. Definitely appreciate any kind of feedback.